Hello and welcome to episode 8 of our weekly podcast, Long Shot. Sharad, how are you?
I'm very good, man, and it's good to be here. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, but perhaps not as well as Mr. Elon Musk.
Why is that? They had a good quarter.
Oh yeah, they had an excellent quarter. They came out with results overnight, 311 million of profits, third time since the company started.
Oh, it's only the third time they've reported a quarterly profit.
Yeah, but Wall Street kind of is making noises that this might be the page turner that the company needed. It's back to sustainability based on one quarter. That's a different thing. But
That's
yeah.
interesting. But yeah, I do remember coming into the quarter, I think all consensus numbers were all, indicating a massive loss. So this might be a big beat.
I think there was a lot of distraction as well, right?
Yeah.
Before, like he was tweeting away strange things. Then SEC hit a fine on him, so I'm pretty sure the investor community was kind of pretty nervous.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's definitely worthwhile keeping a close eye on. I mean, this
Yeah, and he's not tweeting this time.
That's
Not a
all.
single tweet on the result.
That's probably the best sign from the quarter.
I don't know. Actually, I always think that people who follow Elon Musk and news around Tesla, I mean, either they really like him or they hate him. And I mean, I sometimes think that, it's pretty interesting the way he talks about his company, about his product, and, the way he spars with short sellers on Twitter. But I think probably investors sometimes expect a more gray-haired, serious, sober kind of a CEO.
Yeah, probably. And this sort of bipolar view on him is, I think, resonates in the stock markets as well. The massive short positions or long positions, people seem to have very strong views one way or the other.
Tesla is one of the most shorted stocks,
I
correct?
think so. It was. I don't know if it still is, but yes, I mean, it's held that title at least in recent past.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, well shorted, and the bulls are absolute bulls, the bears are absolute bears, and so it's definitely reflective of what you just said in terms of CEO.
Correct. And I think it's yeah, that's the thing, that even after all that noise, when there was a conversation that he might actually no longer be the CEO, then also the stock price tanked.
Yeah, yeah,
So obviously you have haters and lovers, right?
yeah.
Well, speaking of someone not at all like Elon Musk, let's move over to Mr. Mukesh Ambani, the sober, not grey-haired, but at least personality-wise grey-haired chairman of Reliance Industries. What's been going on with them?
Yeah, I like the comparison, by the way, or lack of comparison, whatever you want to say. No, it's Reliance Industries Limited. Listen, big, obviously one of the biggest names on the tape here. I thought it was interesting that they made two very sizable investments last week in broadband assets, cable TV and broadband assets essentially. And they're spending 5,230 crore for to get like meaningful majority stakes into assets. So being out of that, 2,300 crore is around 2,300 crore is for a 66% stake in Den Networks, and about 2,900 crore is for a 51% stake in Hathway. Both these are pure play, independent cable and broadband operators, or MSOs, if you will. And, we have to look at all this through the lens of what Reliance and Jio are trying to do. You and I have talked about it, and you've written about also on how Jio's, entry into wireless with 4G has been sort of, nothing short of disruptive and spectacular. And it's one of the biggest mobile carriers now in India. So, when you think of that, what is the next step? It's fixed wireline broadband, and they've launched Jio Giga Fiber, is what they call it, which is their fixed line broadband play. And one way to accelerate that growth is to pick up or, get an investment in these assets, which have very strong networks with local cable operators, which is so integral to actually establishing last mile connectivity for these guys.
So how does the fixed line broadband value chain work? Where does Gigafiber sit? Where do like Den and Hathway sit?
Den and Hathway sit over the LCOs, which is important to know because Den and Hathway both have relationships with about 27,000 LCOs in India.
And LCOs are the guys who at the ground level are setting up the cable reaching your home.
Yes, so they're the last mile guys.
Right.
So for Jio to really gain traction in the last mile, one way is to sort of harness.
End-to-end.
Yeah, exactly, and harness these relationships. And one way they can harness these relationships is by picking up majority stakes in companies which already have good relationships with those guys. So that's sort of the play, I feel, of leveraging LCO strength or LCO relationships that these guys have, and try to leverage it to push into last mile connectivity and accelerate your play. And I'd be surprised if their pricing model is much different from the 4G space. Like when I say much different, I mean aggressive, undercutting competition. So in that case, I think the go-to-market strategy has to be really quick because you want scale benefits to come and offset margin dilution.
Right. So you feel that the kind of swashbuckling approach they took with Jio, where they probably used, I mean, I'm pretty sure they used Reliance Industries to cross-subsidize Jio, and that's why they were giving such competitive pricing. They'll probably replicate that with fiber.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, probably will.
Right.
It's hard to actually gauge that or read that. I mean, it's more philosophical discussion.
Right.
But you've read a little bit about this.
I've been reading a lot about this lately.
And what is your take and what have you been reading?
No, I've not been reading specifically on Reliance. I've
Yes.
actually been reading like more things through history. So recently, landed up on this book called Billionaire Raj by James Crabtree. He's a Financial Times journalist who spoke of the India's new Gilded Age from year 2000 onwards, where so he talks about the big business families in India and tries to compare them to the Rockefellers, the Carnegies of the US, who came at the turn of 19th century.
So what do you think is the best like-for-like comparison for Reliance today or RIL today
Right.
with a US company or
Standard Oil.
Standard Oil?
I mean, maybe not like Standard Oil went pretty deep into oil as a monopoly. I think Reliance is doing the same kind of approach, the same sort of strategy, but it's going horizontally. So like the same thing, like they make a lot of profits in one business, then they use those profits to be very competitive in a new vertical in terms of pricing. They drive out the competitors, consolidate. So that's why there was a time when the regulators in the US jumped on Standard Oil and they said, "Okay, look, guys, you've become too big. You need to now split."
Yeah,
and I feel that when you're talking about Jio, Fiber, and Den and Hathaway, I was thinking, wait a second, they already are doing a lot of media content.
Yeah.
Right. They're into news in a big way.
Yeah.
They're into telecom in a big way, wireless. Now they're going into broadband till the last mile. Right. So they are creating the pipes. They're pushing the content. So yeah.
End to end. It's end to end control.
It's end to end control, right?
Yeah.
So so that I think is a good lesson from history.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know whether we'll have the kind of political will to split RIL in 10 years. But
Yeah,
history repeats itself, right?
Yeah, no, that's a very interesting analogy. I don't know whether they'll split or not or whatnot, but I can bet that investment bankers are probably pitching them ideas to spin X out or spin out Y and get a sum of the parts valuation or run a different IPO. Someone needs to
that I think will become very lucrative, right, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, typical banker financial engineering play, right?
Right. Now, moving on to power of the state, wanted to talk about Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, desert sandstorm or Davos in the desert. I've heard so many of these metaphors or analogies and basically verbal word plays.
Yeah.
So what's happening and I know it's meaningful from a business perspective, but obviously a little bit of uncertainty in recent times because of some unfortunate incidents. But what is happening in Davos?
So, well, basically, just to give some additional context, the reason why this story I found very interesting was because it kind of mixes geopolitics with very economic issues.
Yeah.
So the background is Saudi Arabia, as you know, has a new crown prince. I think he came in power in 2015. Mohammed bin Salman, also known as MBS, and that was a time when oil prices crashed from $140 all the way down to $35-$40 per barrel, and that's when Mohammed bin Salman pushed for realigning the Saudi Arabian economy, saying that we need to reduce our dependency on oil and we need to diversify.
Yeah.
So he came up with this thing called the Vision 2030. Which was this program which pushed for more privatization, more capital inflows, functioning in advanced capital markets in Saudi Arabia, moving away from oil. So he wants to attract a lot of private investment. That's why, if you recall, Saudi Aramco, which is the big state company owning most of the oil assets, it was up for an IPO at that time.
I remember that was supposed to be the biggest IPO in the world.
So it's supposed to be like a $1.2 trillion company or something. So that was announced. Then MBS set up a sovereign wealth fund called PIF, Public Investment Fund, supposed to become a $600 billion AUM fund by 2020.
That's big. That's huge.
So yeah, he shook hands with SoftBank. He invested $45 billion in Vision Fund of Masayoshi Son.
Yeah.
And then he's invested heavily in Silicon Valley companies, you name it, Uber, WeWork, everyone. Like if you look at, it's very interesting because if you look at Silicon Valley, West Coast, one thinks of very ultra liberal, self-righteous sort of lot, and all of them took Saudi money in a big way.
Yeah.
And all of that was looking nice. Everybody was, kind of praising MBS for being like a, social reformer. He allowed women to drive. He, brought back entertainment, movie theaters, and economically he was doing this big rejig. He also, there were some initial signs of his authoritarian streaks because, he kind of put pretty much half of the royal family in the Ritz-Carlton Hotel as a proxy prisoner.
Yeah.
Accusing them, of corruption, but that was just his way to kind of entrench control. So all that was going fine until this Saudi journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, who has been critical of MBS. He was last seen in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul and then never seen again. And it's now suspected that he's been killed by state actors on orders of MBS himself.
Yeah.
So that pretty much,
tainted
and removed the glitz and aura around MBS. And that's why I think they do this annual forum, investment forum called the Future Investment Initiative, also called Davos in the Desert, which hit the Sandstorm this week because most of the big Western names and executives withdrew.
Yeah. But still a meaningful event, right? From a strictly economic standpoint. I mean, these are not small numbers when we talk about how big that AUM could be in terms of fund size, but also sort of what role it plays in overall geopolitical and economic sustainability of the region, right?
I think, corporates are notoriously short-sighted, and they're more concerned about their branding and positioning, and especially in the current era where I think every initiative or every action that comes on social media, there are tons of people who are ready to put lip service to it. I think it's the same thing here. Right now, obviously, if you look at JP Morgan, if you look at Uber, their CEOs did not attend the event. SoftBank's CEO attended but did not speak. But all of them were present there through their representatives or through sponsorship agreements.
So all optics then.
All optics. I have a feeling that next month or two, Mr. Khashoggi unfortunately will no longer be a driver. When 600 billion is at play, I really don't think those idealistic values hold very long.
Yeah, no, I can totally agree with that. And interestingly, I saw that I think they've invested sizably in Uber as well.
Yeah, so in Uber, PIF has invested directly $3.5 billion.
Oh, wow.
And then they have obviously invested in the $45 billion Vision Fund of SoftBank, which indirectly invested another $7 billion.
So there's a double
so there's around 11 billion direct and indirect exposure to Uber by Saudi Arabia.
Nice, that's very interesting. And since we're talking about Uber, I think it's worthwhile to spend a few minutes on Uber as well, because we've been chatting a lot about it and how
they're about to IPO now, right?
Yeah, they've been talking about potential IPO for I think months and years now, but
so sometime scheduled in 2019.
Yeah, I think, and the number that has been floating around is a potential 120 billion valuation,
right?
Which is significantly ahead of Ford, General Motors, Tesla, or whoever it is. I think.
But with Uber, everyone always, as soon as you hear of Uber, people are like, oh, it doesn't make any money. The economics doesn't work. What's your view on that? Is it as kind of black and white as that?
That's interesting. The hard truth and the facts is that yes, it does not make money. It's net income negative. It's even EBITDA negative.
Right.
But obviously there are some trends, and you also have done a deeper dive into some of those numbers that they report. But I don't see them not making money as of now to be any surprising. I think there's a lot more to them than right now, and it's a more life cycle and stage kind of a play.
They're growing, the net revenues is growing by 60%.
Yeah, it's a growth story, right? Strong top line growth and billing.
12 billion, I think, was gross revenues.
In the last, that's quarterly, right?
Yeah, last, I think it was 2Q 2018.
Yeah.
So 12 billion was the global turnover.
And that was growing at what, double digit, 40, 30?
40%.
40%.
Yeah. And so then after that, from a unit economics perspective, what goes out of it then?
I guess commissions are the biggest one, partner commissions.
Right.
And how much is the
Partner, you mean the driver?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's basically the partner share, which is I think 70% of whatever the gross number is.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, there's an incentive.
Yes.
That pretty much is the big chunk, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So, but when I started looking at those numbers in a bit more detail, I actually realized that if you look at the share, the 70% share that they share with drivers, as well as the incentives that are given to them, that share has actually steadily gone down. It used to be 75% of their overall top line, now it's around 70%. So I think a lot of improvement has happened on that. It's, I think what's happening below the line, where things are not really still in the green.
Yeah, no, that's actually just coming back. That's actually interesting that you say that the partner share has gone down. It's very, very in line with a lot of conversation that I've had with Uber drivers here in Delhi, and it's a consistent theme. Like everyone says that.
So you mean like things have changed in the last 1 year or something?
I think so, because ever since I've been here, I've spoken to so many of these guys, and they all say that things are deteriorating.
Okay, so they're getting less.
They're getting lesser, and there's more cars.
Right.
So there's a double whammy that hits them.
Right.
But yeah, so those numbers, when you say that you're seeing a decline sequentially, I think that resonates or is in line with ground, anecdotal evidence.
Plus, I think Delhi is is a good representative market, right? I mean, it's fairly well entrenched. They have another competitor in Ola.
Yeah.
So I think that might be, so that anecdotal point works, kind of ties well with the numbers as well, right?
Yeah.
Another thing when we looked at the numbers was that, if you look at the top line, I think the only point of concern in the top line after the partner earnings and the incentives was how much they are paying in taxes and fees. I think the regulatory and compliance cost of Uber is probably also a matter of concern for them.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. It's it is an industry where regulations, and it's not easy to navigate regulations.
Right.
So obviously different countries and different geographies have different sets of regulations, but I'm not surprised. I'm guessing that number is also tricking up a little bit.
Yes, it is. Actually, it has doubled.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has doubled in terms of percentage. So, I mean, that's why I think, because whenever they are entering a new market, probably like 5 years back, the regulator did not even know that there's an operator, right?
Yeah.
And now, obviously, pricing perspective, they are being regulated, and most big cities have their own inbuilt taxi service. Like, for instance, London has black cabs, right? Where I remember when Uber had entered, they were suffering tremendous resistance. When I was there, I recall at least 2 to 3 times when all the black cabs went on a strike.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of regulatory pressure. And strangely, Ola now, when it has entered the UK, it is being pretty smart because they are collaborating with the black cab drivers rather than empowering independent partner contractors.
Yeah. No, that's definitely very interesting and good to follow it going forward. Keep track of this closely, how Uber evolves over time, because I've been very fascinated by their whole going airborne piece. There's a little bit of excitement around it.
Right.
Let's see how that plays out in terms of whether it's delivery of via drones or actually transporting humans. But I think we're a fair bit away from it. And like you said, the same regulations are not even there for going airborne right now. But let's see if that happens.
Sharad, are you okay with cars flying on you, like on top of you?
Cars, planes over me, same thing.
Right. They're, I think, a bit low.
Let's see.
Mr. Musk disagrees. He thinks that tunnels are the way future rather than cars flying around.
Yeah, like you said, one's going airborne, the other's going underground.
Right. Depends on which tweet wins in the end.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, it was a great chat as always, and thoroughly enjoyed being here.
Yeah, pleasure, definitely. And so on that note, just would like to remind all our listeners that we are now also streaming on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Deezer. And would definitely welcome you to like and subscribe. And thank you. It's been a pleasure. So this is Nikhil.
And this is Sharad.
Signing off.